Well, here we have the master. On a particular day, surrounded by sinners, tax collectors, disciples, and also Pharisees and scribes. Now, this is an astonishing story, as only the master could tell, and I will do my best to relay it to you. But consider the crowd that was gathered to him to hear the master. Again, Pharisees, scribes, and they were complaining because all these lowlifes, sinners, tax collectors, and just simple Galilean trash to hear the master speak. And Jesus says something very interesting to them before he gets into this story. He says, or the scripture says about these Pharisees and scribes, he says these were lovers of money. Also, they heard all these things that he was saying, and they derided him. That means they were scoffing at him. They were aggravated at him. And they were turning their noses up at him and jeering at him, heaping insults. And in only the Son of God fashion, I love it, he sets them straight with a story. I love stories, don't you? And he said to these men that were gathered, to whom he said, you are those who justify yourselves. You justify yourself in the sight of men, but God knows your hearts. And I'm fixing to tell you what is in your heart. He goes on to say, for that which is highly esteemed among men, what you consider worth everything, what you would glorify yourself in, for that which is highly esteemed among men is detestable in the sight of God. To which I'm sure the crowd went, yay! And so he begins to tell them a story. He says there was a rich man who was clothed in purple and fine linen and fared sumptuously every day. That means he had all the good stuff. Clothes, nice clothes, nice cars, nice houses, had it all. But there was a certain beggar named Lazarus, a poor man, full of sores, who was laid at his gate. That means people would take this poor man because he was in the way wherever he was, and they would lay him at the rich man's gate, desiring. Now this poor man was desiring to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores. And so it was that the beggar died, the poor man died. And was carried away by the angels to Abraham's side. Now, most of the people hearing this would have scoffed even more. They would have actually gagged at such words, that such a wretched man, poor, most likely ugly, sick. This man had it bad, but they would have gagged at it, at the man, the poor man. I mean, the waste of a man was standing with Abraham. They would have thought the poor man was under a curse because of all the bad that was happening to him in his life. Because in that day, if you had wealth, that meant the blessing of God was on you. If you had stuff, that meant God was showering those blessings on you. That meant that you had the favor of God. Well, Abraham, he was the father of the Israelites, the faithful, the wealthy, the blessed, and he is the one who started the Israelite race. And this wretched man was standing next to Abraham? Well, what about the rich man? By the way, the rich man wasn't even named. He wasn't even worthy to have a name in this story. Well, he had a funeral and he was buried. The poor man didn't even have that. The rich man died and was buried and probably had, like I said, an appropriate funeral. The Jews would have thought that the rich man would be next to Abraham and the poor man would be in hell. But this was opposite of the truth. It says that the rich man lifted up his eyes from hell and said, I am in torment in this flame. And now, the rest of the story. This story is a death blow to self-righteousness. It's also a death blow to the fact that the circumstances that you are experiencing in your life are any indication of God's favor on you. We should all learn from this amazing story, especially what the master, the storyteller, said, you are those who justify yourselves in the sight of men, but God knows your hearts. For that which is highly esteemed among men is detestable in the sight of God. For they were lovers of money. I didn't say it. He did. He that has ears to hear, and those of you that do have ears to hear, you hear it, what the Spirit is saying. But the rest, you got to take with a grain of salt, because I'm telling you what, there ain't no